and going backwards, and you talk about the book bans. And it really is a replay in my mind of anti-literacy laws, right? Like this idea of if we give them the history, if they know what's going on, then one fear was that they would write their own slaves, would write their own passes to freedom, right? So the ability to write policy or to change things through education, or two, that you become aware that slavery is wrong and that there's an abolition movement, right? And so this kind of going backwards of book bans and critical race theory, what do you think?
So I'm going to say this, before the idea in the slave master's mind or in the colonizer's mind, whatever you want to call it, before they even thought about if I give them a pen and a paper to read and write, there was already a disease in the spirit.
Yeah, that's right.
Of the slave. There was already a disease in the spirit because they knew something was better. Even those who came after those who were ripped from Africa, they knew it wasn't right.
Yes.
And the fear was that we would be able to think, move. This nation was built on the backs of slavery and slaves. The White House was built, the White House and the Capitol were built by our ancestors. Right. Last year, there was a huge call to study reparations. They've been doing studies for a long time, all right? And in the late grade, Congressman John Conyers was talking about reparations, but now they were trying to study it. This year, the House is flipped, okay? They ain't studying nothing. They're not even talking about it. So when we talk about erasing that, I believe that is a part of it because they were pushing, certain communities in the Black community were pushing for reparations. What does it look like? Some of it could look like, hey, that 40 acres that they were talking about. What does 40 acres from hundreds of years ago equate to in 2023?
Come on.
They have given reparations to Japanese Americans, correct?
Yes.
And that was after us.
Yeah.
Way after us. What does it look like? The fear is to have to deal with that.
Yes.
And so that's one of the reasons why there is an erasure. It's guilt and, oh my God, oh, I didn't do it. No, but the system did it.
That's right.
The system, they supported the system that did it. And there are Ivy League schools that are grappling with this right now. They want to stop this because people are realizing that there was a wrong that was committed and there must be a reparation. Look at the wealth gap right now.
Woo!
Look at the wealth gap. You know, and it's going to get worse if there's a continued fight over this debt ceiling.
Yeah.
Your interest rates are going to go up.
Yes.
You know, trying to buy a car or a house, you may as well forget it. This is one of the hardest places to get a house in out here in the nation.
Yeah. Terrible.
Trust me, I won't be buying out here. They're beautiful on the hill, but and that's for the average American who doesn't look like us. And then when you get to us, what happens? And that's one of the reasons why they want to take these books out that challenges the system or make you unaware of this is how we live, this is who we are. We have never been on an equal playing field. Never. And people always say, oh, why do you always talk about race? Because race and money touches everything in every category. So.
Well, you hit on the other, and then we'll go to the audience here. When you first started talking, you said about the disparities, right? And you talk about race and money hits on everything. And we look at it, you talk about San Francisco, less than 6% African American, but more than 50% of the folks who are incarcerated. The health disparities that you talk about, the wealth gap is, between African Americans make less than $40,000 a year, and everybody else, for the most part, is over $100,000 a year.
That's ridiculous. But doing the same job. And then look, and in Baltimore, I'm outside of Baltimore now, but I come from a place where Baltimore's blighted. It's terrible. If any of you ever ride the train, come on the East Coast and ride the train from DC to New York, you see how horrible from the train that those areas are. Baltimore is blighted because certain industries left. Beth Steel, that used to make ships, they left. a lot of people who did not have college degrees were able to get a middle income status through Beth Steel and other manufacturing companies. They left, and now Baltimore is blighted. And Baltimore is now a city, a high renters community. We have a lot of blocks that are vacant. And people from all over are coming and trying to buy. I'm praying that Baltimore winds up turning into Detroit. Because remember Detroit? There was a renaissance for Detroit. Detroit is beautiful now. I'm praying that that will happen, but when you have companies who decide, I'm not going to go there because the hiring pool is horrible. Well, I'm from Baltimore. I'm horrible. But, but there are some, but Baltimore is one of those communities, we're now living off of wage workers. And that is not a way to build wealth. That is not a way to live with a family. That is poverty.
That's right.
So what happens? You've got to deal with that because it brings communities to their knees. And I don't know what to say. I mean, I believe, and I think, I hate to keep going back to the Black Panther Party because that was in your community, and Dr. King and all that. First-class citizenship, there is a disparity. There's a disparity. And it takes people en masse to say something collectively, consistently, and persistently. Everybody's not a marcher, but other people can do other things.
That's right.
To put pressure. And I think people get complacent once they get those Teslas. And I'm not on Twitter anymore. I really pull back into it. I'm sorry, you have one. I'm so sorry. And then when you get the red bottoms, what they call Cardi B call them blood shoes and the Tesla. Now I'm not gonna lie, I got one pair of blood shoes. But when you get the blood shoes and the Teslas and you get the house on the hill with the slopes down and the little trolley comes down, you think you made it. But what happens to your sister's son? He's not doing so well.
That's right.
Speak. Many of us are one paycheck away from what?
Right.
So let's be real. What happens to you impacts me because if it happens to you, it's coming around to me in a minute.
I tell people that in terms of we're looking at the media and we're looking at the things that are happening. Don't think because it's the mayor or it's the supervisor. Just know it's really an attack on everybody, whether you like their politics or not. Understand that, and don't be surprised when your name's in the paper next time with the story and the narrative. And as you were speaking, I thought about Director Eric Shaw and so this investment that the mayor and the supervisor have made in terms of $60 million a year for Black folks intentional. They were able to over the last year give out $500,000 to nearly 20 people to buy homes in San Francisco.
That's beautiful.
So give it up for Eric. And I know he's going
to home ownership. And I don't take home ownership lightly because when you sit in that unique perch and you hear all these things, you're like, wait a minute, I gotta get myself together. I believe in generational wealth, leaving something for my two girls who, we just don't know each day. We had pandemic and they were saying, you need to create your will because you don't know if tomorrow is going to be your last day or today's going to be your last day. So I really started thinking about that. And I said, home ownership is that leveraging piece for business and sending your children to school. And many of us don't own. Black America had the highest numbers of home ownership during Bill Clinton's presidency. And then corporate America, the banks found out about it. During the George Bush years. And then they started giving us these loans, these ballooning loans that pushed us into foreclosure. Am I telling the truth? And now our home ownership levels are like in 1968 when they were fighting for the Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act went into law in 1968. We Black folks' numbers are at that point right now. That's a sin and a shame. We are willing to buy a weave or a wig or a Maybach. I'm gonna get off of Tesla. The only reason why I say Tesla is because Elon Musk. I was shocked by Elon Musk on Twitter. I'm kind of off of Twitter a little bit because they pulled my numbers down. I said, y'all need to stop. And I'm probably going to be off Twitter after this. I don't care. They probably gonna find me and block me. I don't care. What more can I, what more can they do to me? What more?
We all love you, so you win.
Thank you. But seriously, I think, thank you for doing that, because we have to really look at our homes and look at owning a piece of something. We have to really start thinking about that, because at the end of the day, if you don't own, you're in a whole other class that you're really struggling to get anything, because home ownership also helps you build credit.
Yeah.
You gotta pay your mortgage now on time, because that also is a bad strike against you if you don't pay your mortgage on time. Well, we have to go back to basics. They don't teach us this in school.
No, not at all.
They don't teach us a lot in school.
No.
But we have to impress upon them, the basics of economics, the basics of civics. And that's one of the reasons why we get January 6th, because half these people don't even know how government works.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we need to go back to the basics and really start putting things back so people, especially our people, can understand. Not just a paragraph on slavery in the history book, not just a paragraph on the 3 branches of government, We need to understand, we need to get into it. I think we have been underserved in a lot of ways.
But that's why, again, you pointing out the work that Frederica and Xavier are doing, like how we do more of that.
Zach, I'm sorry, Zach. We met in the vineyard. All the women were running after him, trust. Frederica says that always happens wherever he goes.
I think we got time for maybe a couple questions. Do you want to, Sai or Debbie, somebody want to take them?
I tried to set up Zachary with my cousin.
Well,
Yeah, you remember, I was like, no. You did say he was taking it. She's a good girl. You like it,
Okay. Ms. Ryan,
Hello.
hi. With the thought of where we were in the 60s, 70s as a part of NAACP, Black Caucus, National Council of Negro Women, do you think today, dreaming forward, we need to get back to that, of moving together, being together, knowing the same thing together, fighting together and standing together, or do we go on forward with a new wheel?
So let me say this. I think all of the above, and I'm saying this as a journalist from that unique perch that I watch. For 25 years, I was the only, for 26 years, no, 25 years, 25 years. I was the only Black person at the White House covering urban issues. Okay? Only one. Oh, that's ridiculous. Everything comes to the White House from Water Peace and everything in between. I have seen funerals on the street in front of the White House. Seriously, I have. I've seen people march. I saw MLK get arrested on voting rights. Was it last year? With Ben Jealous in front of the White House. They pay attention. But when things break down, when you don't have a lot of people out there, when it's not consistent and the pressure is not on, that's when they kind of say, okay, they did it for a minute. I think about what LBJ said to Dr. King, make me do it. He really said that to Dr. King. And that making me do it was getting out there, bringing all types of people together.
Yes.
It took Selma and white folks, seeing white folks getting beaten too. Because when the white folks saw the Black folks, they were like, the white folks who were the allies were like, wait a minute, this is not right. They just want to be able to vote. And then when they joined and saw other white folks being beaten and killed, that's when the change happened. You are not relics of the past, but you've got to figure out how to mold into the current day. One of the big differences is social media. Social media has really drastically changed the game. If you are not on social media, oh my gosh, you lose. Social media helps you rally the troops. Social media helps you rally the troops. That's not the only thing though. social media helps you get the people there, but you gotta scrape up some red bottoms in March. In mass. And I say that because some of us think, oh, I'm clutching my pearls and I'm good. I'm serious. I hear that a lot. There's some groups that, oh, we don't need that. We're good. No, we're not. And then when something happens, oh, I would never imagine that to happen.
Wow.
What are you gonna do about it?
Come on.
We can all be bougie, okay?
Yeah.
And we can all be real as well. I just, from what I see and what I hear, everyone's talking about voting rights. They want voting rights. That's not top of mind right now because there's been a shift in the House.
Yeah.
Policing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Cory Booker and Tim Scott are at it again. Minus Karen Bass is now the mayor of Los Angeles. And let me pause on her for a minute. She's priceless. That man threw over $100 million at her, and she's still working. That's what I'm talking about, the power of a black woman who's real and authentic. Priceless.
Wow. So that right there, that's our local queen. All right. You are national queen. And so as a black woman,
As another black
you need
queen.
to sit in front of queens. Thank you. So this is my question to you.
Come on, queens, queen with the
Queen,
white
queen.
boots. I was looking at your white. I know. I was looking at those boots. I'm like, come on, KJ Clark and white boots. Yes, it works.
So I'm trying to be like Dr. Davis. You should have saw her in red boots, but anyway. But Queen April Ryan,
Yes.
this is what I want to know. You continue to be on the front line for us and risk your life. You risk so much. So just as that one too. But what motivates you? What is it? That's it. That's a good one.
I don't know what motivates me. I didn't ask for this. When I was in college, walking across the yard at Morgan State University, the quad. Yeah. Morgan in the house? Morgan in the house? Is there Morganite? Okay. You were moving. I'm not mad with you. So I wasn't socially active. I really wasn't. But as a child, my mother regaled me about the Black Panther Party. My mother and father, as a child, I was one of those weird kids. I was a latchkey kid. I would come home and I would actually go to that record player that looked like a coffin. Remember those? The stereo set. Oh my gosh. That's a relic, right? And I would put on Dr. King's speeches. I'm like, as a kid, because it was something, I always was in the church, but it was something about that rise and fall of his voice. It was something as a kid about the determination that he had for us. I don't know, and I think about it now, I'm like, girl, you were really quirky. And I am a nerd, I'm quirky, I'm serious. And Frederica knows who I am, because we've been together. She's like, this girl's a trip. But we have a good time together. But I'm a nerd and I'm quirky. And I didn't understand it until now, because my mother and father, both of my parents come from agrarian families, right? My father comes from a farming family in Maryland, in a space that's now very wealthy. When he was a kid, he said, they didn't want us there. I said, well, you know what? We don't have any choice for us to go there. Because what motivates me, let me get back to that. What motivates me is, and I think this is where it is, and then my mother was down south in North Carolina, a very small town that's very close to Myrtle Beach. It's like 45 minutes from Myrtle Beach, but a very small town in the southeastern tip of North Carolina. She used to tell me how she could walk to school, and the kids would spit on her in the white school buses. You don't ever want to hear that happening to your mama, right? She would tell me stories, and I was born 9 months before Dr. King was assassinated. I was born a few years before the March on Washington. I was born, you know, all the civil rights stuff was right around my birthday. I was born just before the Fair Housing Act. So they would talk to me about race. I wasn't socially active in school. I was just that kid who just wanted to be in radio, wanted to be in media. I was always working. They used to call me Oprah, right? Because Oprah was in Baltimore at the time. Oprah, all I've ever known in my life was Oprah Winfrey, seeing that black excellence, right?
Wow.
She was in Baltimore and then she went, that's all I've ever known, you know? And I never aspired to be Oprah because I always said, you know, everyone has their gift and God lays what they want. I said, God, you got whatever you got for me. And I always appreciate her for her, because I could never handle what she handles. And I don't think a lot of people can handle what I have to handle. But I think each one of us is uniquely different to be able to handle what we have. And I'm a firm believer in that. But I think what motivates me is the fact that when I got to the White House reporting on Black America, I really saw the injustice. I really saw the disparity, the hurt. I saw Black farmers begging for their money that they were told that they were to get for almost 20 years.
Wow.
I see now in 2023, Black farmers were supposed to get money, but the Republicans got very upset saying it's reparations, and now the money is for distressed farmers, not Black farmers, right? You pay attention to these dynamics and differences. You see the disparity. What motivates me as a Black person to understand what it's like to be Black in America, and then see when they're talking about the disparities in sentencing for crack cocaine versus powder cocaine, who uses crack and who uses powder. During Clinton's time, it was 100-to-1. The sentencing was, for powder cocaine was like, no, for crack cocaine, you would be sentenced 100 times harsher than you would be for powder. Crack was always whack for white folks who were sentencing, like Whitney Houston would say. But, and then looking at housing, you know, the rise of Black folks owning homes, even in San Francisco, and then how they preyed upon us in the downfall. We're back at it at the numbers when they put in the law to help us gain. That's what motivates me to ask questions, and when I hear people say, oh my God, thank you for asking those questions, it meant something to me. Again, everything comes to that White House, from War to Peace and everything in between. And unfortunately, the mainstream media only asks questions about Black America when there's a crescendo moment.
Yeah.
We hurting every day.
That's right.
Our crescendo moment is every moment. So I think that's what motivates me.
So, we are already over time.
I'm sorry.
No, I think we are all grateful that you made time to be here in San Francisco. Is that right?